Welcome all for today's interactive session. That is the topic for interaction today is preparation for intracoronal restorations. Intracoronal restorations are restorations which are fabricated within the crown. Within the cuspal inclines or within the tooth. Inlay is considered as the simplest of the intracoronal restorations. The other intracoronal restoration which we will be dealing today will be onlays. So intracoronal restorations, in intracoronal restorations you will have inlays and onlays. So we will start with the interaction. So inlays are considered as the simplest of the cast restorations. It usually restores the occlusal, gingival and proximal lesions, and inlays utilizes wedge retention. That means it always exert an inlay when you cement it on a tooth. It exerts an outward pressure, and this outward pressure is usually present within the tooth all throughout its life, like right from the trying cementation, and when the patient chews or bites, you will have this wedge kind of effect exerted by the inlay restoration on the tooth. So you have to be very careful when you select a tooth for receiving an inlay, or when you are preparing a tooth for receiving an inlay. It should have sufficient bulk. Otherwise, what happens is the tooth might fracture at the cuspal inlay junction. So you have to be very careful when you select a tooth for inlay. Indications of inlays are, it is usually similar to all amalgam restorations. That is, you can give inlays for class 2 uh, cases. You can give it for a class 1 case. You can give it for class 3 cases, and you can give it for class 5 cases. Usually, we won't give inlays for class 4 cases. Class 3 specifically related to the distal aspect of canines. If you make it on lateral incisor or central incisor, aesthetics will be compromised. So usually it is given onto the distal aspect of canine. What inlay does is it replaces the missing tooth structure. That means if we have a caries on the mesioclusal aspect, you remove the caries and you record the impression after preparation of the tooth, and you cement the inlay. So the missing tooth structure will be replaced by inlay. It doesn't reinforce the remaining tooth structure. So you have to be very careful with the remaining tooth structure. As I told earlier, it should have sufficient bulk to retain the inlay restoration. So it doesn't reinforce the remaining tooth structure. And with the preparation, it needs to be conservative, as we all know. Try to conserve as much as tooth structure as possible. So there is no compromise in that. You need to conserve the tooth structure. And the recommended isthmus width is 1/4 to 1/3. You have to remember that you cannot extend the inlay preparation too wide. You might think that if you extend the width, or if you make it more wider, there is more chances that you get a inlay which is been of increased strength. It is a mistake. There is always chances that you fracture the tooth in the course. So it is always better that you restrict the width of the isthmus to 1/4 to 1/3. If you increase the width, there is always chances that more stress will be on the interface between the inlay and the tooth structure. And even deepening of the isthmus also should be avoided or should be removed. You should not deepen the isthmus. There is a limitation for everything. So even though I've talked about different inlays, that we can give inlays on class 2 as well as class 1 as well as class 3 and class 5. Today we will be talking, or we will be interacting on inlays which is being given on the proximo-occlusal aspect of a particular tooth. And inlays are usually indicated in premolars or molars. The advantage of inlay over amalgam restoration, as I have told earlier, it is indicated in all cases wherein you can give amalgam restoration. But the advantage of an inlay over an amalgam is the superior material, and margin of the inlay will not deteriorate with time. That is the advantage of an inlay over an amalgam restoration. So you are casting the restoration, so there is always chances that you get a better material or a metal with the no voids. So the strength, everything will be better, and the margin will be better, and it won't deteriorate with the time. If in case of amalgam, there is a corrosive products and leaching of other substances which will make the margins vulnerable to fracture. But in case of inlay, the margin is anytime superior to that of a margin of an amalgam. So these are the reasons why we prefer inlays over amalgams in few cases, few clinical conditions. So moving on with the preparation, because we are dealing with the preparation for intracoronal restorations. So we will check what are the armamentarium. We need handpiece, we need number 170 L burr, we need 169 L burr, we need a flame shaped diamond, flame burr, then few hand instruments which include enamel hatchet, binangle chisel, and gingival marginal trimmer. The use of number 170 L burr, it gives us occlusal outline and helps in preparation of the proximal box, as we are dealing with the proximo occlusal inlay. Again, number 169 L burr, undermining the marginal ridge, and again it contributes to the preparation of proximal box. Flame diamond helps you to give a proximal flare. It helps to give gingival bevel and isthmus bevel. Then burr is again used for finishing. Enamel hatchet, chisel, and gingival marginal trimmer also are used in the course of preparation. So the first preparation is with the help of number 170 L burr, occlusal outline, as you can see in the picture, the yellow aspect of the picture. The occlusal outline is prepared using this burr, number 170 L burr. So what we does is we make the initial penetration into the enamel in the fossa with the tip of the non-dentate tapered Fisher burr. Once you get the catch, it is being dragged through the central groove of the occlusal surface, leaning the instrument in the direction of the handpiece is moving. So this is the first step which we do with the 170 L burr. If any developmental grooves are there, you make sure that it is been included in your preparation. The isthmus is also prepared with the 170 L burr, and the approximate depth is around 1.5 millimeter. And you have to make sure that one thing you have to remember is the margin of the preparation has to be at least 1 millimeter away from the occlusal contact. You cannot make the margin on the occlusal contact, that is opposing cusp should be either coming into contact with natural tooth structure, or it should be on the restoration. The margin should never be on the area of contact. So once the occlusal outline is been completed, we move on with the next preparation, that is using 169 L burr. We undermine the marginal ridge. We undermine the marginal ridge. So 170 L burr, we prepare the occlusal surface, then we undermine the marginal ridge for the proximal box preparation with the help of 169 L burr. It is done by moving the or running the burr just inside the cemento enamel junction interproximally. As you have already done preparation for class 2 restorations in your conservative department, same principle is been followed here. Only difference is in the angulation of the burr. So what we do is we mix the proximal box. We undermine the marginal ridge with the 169 L burr. Once it is been done, we move on with the defining of the proximal box. So you can very well define the proximal box again with the help of this 169 L burr. So sometimes what we do is we always use sometimes sharp enamel chisel or other hand instruments to make the uh, margin smooth, as well as to break out the undermined tooth structure. You have to be very careful when doing when using the hand instruments. You should not slip out of hand. You should not traumatize the gingiva. So with 169 elber, we undermine the marginal ridge and we prepare the proximal box. So that is the function of 169 elber. So you have now the occlusal preparation done, and you have the proximal preparation done. So one thing you have to remember is you should extend the box facially and lingually to the point where the box breaks contact with the adjacent tooth. You have to break the contact both buccally as well as lingually. So your extension is based on the contact with the adjacent tooth. Again, you have to make sure that there is slight amount of divergence. You have to keep the burr slightly diverging, that is the walls has to be slightly diverging. Ideally, initially it was told that you have to make it parallel, but slight amount of divergence is possible, say around 8 to 12 degree. Should not increase the divergence or increase the taper. If you increase the taper, there is always chances that more stresses and will be incorporated into the tooth structure, and there is always chances that the retention will be compromised. So you have to be very careful when you prepare the box. It should extend beyond the contact point both buccally as well as lingually, and with a slight amount of taper. The walls has to be slightly tapered. So these are the precautions which you are supposed to take when you prepare your proximal box with 169 elber. Then, as I told earlier, you can use enamel chisel or hatchet or a binangle chisel to smooth and define the facial and lingual walls of the box. So in some cases you have to use this chisel to make sure that the box and walls are well defined and smooth. And one more thing you have to remember is you have to widen the isthmus where the proximal box where it joins the proximal box, and you should round any angle that have formed in the area where they meet. So you have prepared the isthmus using 170 elber, and now you have prepared the box with the help of 169 elber. So you have to widen the isthmus slightly in that particular area where it joins with the proximal box. So these are the things which you are supposed to remember when you use a 169 elber to prepare the proximal box. Then in some cases, to increase the retention, what we do is we make a groove that is called as the gingivo-axial groove. It is also called as Minnesota ditch. In few cases, we call it as Minnesota ditch. So we use this groove with the help of you use this groove to we fabricate or we make this groove with the help of a gingival marginal trimmer, and this enhances the resistance to displacement by occlusal forces. The inlay, for inlay, it enhances the resistance to displacement by means of the occlusal forces. So, with the help of a gingival marginal trimmer, we create a V-shaped groove at the junction of the axial wall and the gingival floor of the box. So it increases the resistance to displacement by occlusal forces. So you can very well appreciate in the picture the gingival groove which is been created by means of a gingival marginal trimmer, and this groove has got a V shape. So this is also called as Minnesota ditch. So this can be asked as a viva question: what is Minnesota ditch? It is nothing but a V-shaped groove which has been created on the junction between the axial wall and the gingival floor for an inlay using a gingival marginal trimmer. Then after creating this V-shaped groove for enhancing the resistance to displacement by occlusal forces, we move with the preparation of proximal flare. And for proximal flare, we use a flame diamond. We prepare the proximal flare with the help of a flame diamond. The flare, it is a flat plane cut across the carving proximal surface of the tooth. It leans into the center of the tooth slightly as the surface of the tooth is curving outward in the proximal contact area. Flare is narrow at the gingival end of the tooth and it becomes wider towards the occlusal end. So here you use the flame shaped diamond to make the proximal flare. So with the help of proximal flare, you will get a better marginal integrity of the inlay to the remaining tooth structure. So we use which instrument for creating proximal flare? We create the proximal flare with the help of flame shaped diamond. And what you have to remember with respect to the proximal flare is it is narrower at the gingival surface or gingival end, and as you proceeds or move towards the occlusal surface, it becomes more wider. So that is the one thing which you have to remember with the proximal flare, that is, it is always narrower at the gingival end and it is much wider at the occlusal end. So the proximal flare is being done with the help of flame shaped diamond. So after the preparation of the proximal flare with the help of diamond, you need to finish that. For finishing the proximal flare, you can use the burr. Then after making the proximal flare and finishing it with the help of the burr, again we have to make two more things, that is a gingival bevel and an isthmus bevel. Gingival bevel is again, as you can see in the picture, it is been prepared using flame shaped diamond. Even the isthmus bevel also is made with the help of flame shaped diamond. So what you have to remember with the gingival bevel and isthmus bevel is that you should have an angulation of around 30 to 45 degree. And why you are giving a gingival bevel? It is to provide an optimum blend of strength and marginal fit for the inlay. So the expected angle of a gingival bevel is around 30 to 45 degree. 30 to 45 degree. So what it does is it provides an optimum blend of strength and marginal fit. And for isthmus bevel, the range is around 15 to 20 degree. 15 to 20 degree. You have to remember that for a gingival bevel, it is around 30 to 45 degree. But when it comes to a isthmus bevel, it has to be around 15 to 20 degree, not more than that. So again, you run it across the tooth structure and you create this bevel as you do for tooth preparation. And the burr which you use for that is flame diamond. The burr which you use is flame diamond. So after this, as I told earlier, we do the finishing with all the finishing, both the flare finishing as well as the isthmus bevel finishing and gingival bevel finishing with the help of a flame shaped burr. You prepare it with the diamond and you do the finishing with the burr. So this is how you prepare a proximo occlusal inlay. So to conclude, what are the functions of each bevel, as well as all the preparations which you have given. So starting off, we first prepare the occlusal aspect with the 170 L-bar. Then you undermine the marginal ridge and prepare the proximal box with 169 L-bar. Then you prepare the proximal flare with the help of flame diamond. Again you prepare the gingival bevel as well as the isthmus bevel again with the flame diamond. You make the Minnesota ditch with the help of a gingival marginal primer, and final finishing is done with the help of a flame shaped burr. So this is how you prepare a proximo-occlusal inlay. So function of each characterization which you have provided in the preparation. Gingival bevel contributes to the marginal integrity of the restoration. Proximal box, resistance and retention. As I told earlier, you can have a slight amount of taper of around 7 to 12 degree, not more than that. If you increase, there is always chances of decreased retention and more stress. It also provides structural durability. Proximal flare, as I told earlier, it gives marginal integrity to the inlay. Isthmus, again retention and resistance. It should not be too wide and it should not be too deep. These are the things which you have to remember when you prepare the isthmus. 1/4 to 1/3 is the recommended width, and the depth, as I mentioned earlier, it is around 1.5 millimeter, not more than that. Again, isthmus provides structural durability to the restoration, and the dovetail preparation, that is the occlusal aspect preparation, provides retention and resistance and structural durability, and the bevel, the occlusal bevel, again gives marginal integrity. This is how you prepare a tooth for receiving a proximo-occlusal inlay. This is the restoration which we use commonly, that is we give inlays for class 2 restorations. As I told earlier, you can give inlays for class 1, class 3 on the distal aspect of canine, as well as on class 5 areas, but not widely recommended because inlays doesn't reinforce the remaining tooth structure. So it is an extensive procedure, and the impression, recording, cementation, everything is crucial unless otherwise it is being required. With the advent of newer materials like composite, the chances of inlay has been reduced to areas which is been of utmost importance or relevant areas. First, you need to have maximum strength, and you need to have a better margin. In those areas you prefer to have inlays. So with this we will wind up today's session. In the next session we will talk on how you prepare a tooth to receive an onlay, that is the next intracoronal restoration. Thank you.